is now 6:30, and I would like to call this regular Planning and Zoning meeting of the City of Kyle to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Scheibmeyer.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
McCall. Here. Christie.
Here.
Guerra.
Here.
McCutcheon.
Here.
Voss.
Here.
Okay, we have minutes, the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes for October 13th, 2020. Can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve those minutes, Madam Chair.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are accepted. Item number 4, election of chair and vice chair. Okay, Deb, now what do we do? Somebody, anybody? It was just myself for chair and Tim for vice chair, so we still have to have the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So for chair is Michelle Christie. All those in favor of Michelle Christie for chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passed unanimously. You never know. For vice chair, we have Tim McCutcheon. He's the only nominee. All those in favor of Tim McCutcheon for vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, Tim, you're in.
Thank you.
Don't look so excited. Item number 5, citizens' comments. I'm going to open citizens' comments. Do we have anything that is to be read, or has anyone called in to comment during this time period? Deb or Howard? No one? Will anybody call in? No? Okay, seeing no one here, I will close citizens' comments. Item number 6, presentation. A presentation of Kyle 57 by Daniel McElrath. Daniel, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. This is Garrett Martin. I'm the CEO and owner of Milestone, and Daniel is going to put on the presentation here in just a moment.
Okay.
But I wanted to thank y'all very much for your time tonight, and then also just tell you real briefly about our company, and then we can jump into the project. So thank you so much for the time and the service on the commission, and I look forward to presenting the project to you. And I'm excited about several other parcels that we're working on in the Kyle area that we're hopefully going to be bringing to you here in the not too distant future. So our company is a company that I started 11 years ago now in Austin, and we started out as just a little itty bitty company, and the air conditioner didn't work in the afternoon in the building we were in, and bootstrapped our way into now a pretty good size home building company here in Austin. So we're now the largest privately held home builder in Austin. And we've done that really by servicing the needs of our customers and differentiating the homes that we build. We built a project called The Grove at Shoal Creek, which you can see on the internet if you go to The Grove, it's thegroveatx.com is the website. You can kind of check that out. But that's a big mixed use project just north of downtown Austin that we worked on for, I worked on it for about the last 5 years or so. So it's now actually come to fruition and is built out on site. At least the first phases are, and we've probably moved a couple hundred people into the homes out there. We've also built some other large master plan communities. There's one up north in the Leander Liberty Hill area called Larkspur. And that Larkspur project is it's a municipal utility district, but it's been really kind of the leader for setting the tone of growth in that submarket. The quality of development that we executed up there was one of the early leaders in high quality projects out there, as opposed to sort of just your normal cookie cutter communities. We don't have some of the constraints that some of our competitors do because we're locally owned. We can go out and build projects that maybe don't make quite as much sense on paper to some folks, but that we believe in the vision for. And that's what we've prided ourselves on over the last 11 years. So I appreciate y'all hearing that. And I just wanted to share a little bit about who we are, since we haven't done a ton of work in y'all's community, but we're looking forward to becoming a part of that community and hopefully adding some value along the way. Daniel, you want to take it from there?
Will do. Garrett, thanks for the intro, and commissioners, thank you all for getting us on the agenda kind of last minute. I'll get to a brief overview here of where the project is located. So you can see Kyle 57 is right here, right where Old Stagecoach intersects with FM 150. And we back up to Six Creeks here to the south of us. And it's, a project that we're really excited about. And, I think we've put together a strong vision for what this community can be, and actually have Robert Deegan with us, our landscape architect who built this plan, to talk you through some more of the details. So with that, I'll let Robert take over, and I'll follow along and move the slides through.
Thank you, Daniel. And turn on my video. Good evening. My name is Robert Deegan, and I've been helping Milestone put together the vision for this project. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to walk you through that vision. The project is really built around, I think the vision started with an early site visit where I found all these nice mature trees on the site that kind of run through this low point through the middle of the site. And seeing where those trees were, I started trying to figure out how to kind of build the project around them. And so we created this idea for these parkway streets. So we have these wide open space parkways that, instead of pushing some of the open space to the edges of the project, they end up right in the middle of the project with our main roadways running through them. And the roadways have the space to wind around and miss those trees, so that we end up with these nice mature motts of trees saved along those main roadways. So you're kind of driving home through a wide open space as you come through these areas. It gives opportunities for trails that connect the project. And then also all the homes around those parkways are alley loaded. So you're looking at front porches opening out onto that parkway. We see it as a really great opportunity to kind of bring all the energy of the project into one space: the open space energy, the front porch energy, the walking, trailing, hiking, etc., all kind of converge in this space. So we see it as a great center point for the community. And the project is made up of a mix of rear-loaded 40-foot lots and then rear alley 50 and 55-foot lots that you see in yellow, and then a few larger 60-foot lots in white. If you go to the next slide, Daniel. For the branding, we wanted to really introduce a strong vision right there at the front door as you pull into that first boulevard. We're planning to call the project Hearts and Run in honor of former mayor of Kyle, Mary Kyle Hartson, and then we want to build signage with some really strong, durable materials that signal the quality that we envision with stone and corten and board formed concrete, as well as some really nice landscaping along those parkways. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about the roadway system that we've built. There's kind of a hierarchy of three types of roads. You see the entry boulevard, the parkways in red, the parkways in green, and then the local roads in orange. Next slide. So the entry boulevard is a divided lane with a landscape median in the middle. That's what you would be on when you pass through that nice branding and signage out at the front. And then it terminates into a roundabout that's surrounded by mature oak trees. So it'll be a really nice way to enter this project, tree-lined, surrounded by open space on one side and a commercial parcel on the other. Next slide. The parkway is really the heart of the project. These are streets that'll wind through the trees. They'll have an 8-foot wide concrete trail on one side of the street and then a standard sidewalk on the other. So really great opportunities for trail connectivity inside and outside the project. Next slide. And then the orange streets are the local streets. These are your standard residential streets within the project, but these are going to be done in more of a traditional neighborhood manner. So most of the product on the site, the vast majority has a rear garage. So you're going to have a big front porch on the front, no driveway or garage at the front of the home. And then we're going to have a generous 8-foot planting strip for street trees on both sides of the streets. So you're going to get a really high quality streetscape environment on these streets that will contrast with the parkway, which is going to be much more park-like, and these would be more town-like or village-like. But I think that contrast will create a nice diversity of experiences within the project. Next slide. I want to talk just a little bit about the open space within the project. A little bit more. So in addition to those parkways, or on those parkways, would be a 1.3 acre amenity site with a community pool for the neighborhood. The rest of that open space that you see in the darker green color there would all be public open space. So it's not just for the community, it's for the entire community of Kyle. So you'd have trails in that space and other amenities that would be accessible to the public, including a dog park, a playground, and then there are opportunities both to the south, opportunities for trail connectivity to the Six Creeks development, and to the right over here, we intend to coordinate with the commercial parcel adjacent to us to provide connectivity to the trail that's already planned along Old Stagecoach Road. Next slide. This just provides a quick summary. So parkland dedication requirement for a project of this size would be 2.9 acres. We're providing 6.5 acres of public parkland, along with an additional 1.3 acres of private amenity, for which we're requesting no parkland credit. So a total of recreational open space of 7.8 acres. So a tremendous amount of recreational open space per home. And in addition to that, we'll be improving that public parkland with 8-foot concrete trail, dog park, playscape, and landscaping, picnic areas, etc. Next slide. So this is just a 3-dimensional view, kind of a bird's eye view to give you a sense of that vision. So you can, once again, you see the parkway stretching out here in front of you to the left, the road winding between the mature trees, the big wide open space that forms a common space for the project with the playground and the swimming pool here in the foreground, and then other open space and amenities spreading out throughout. You can see the traffic circle over to the left and a little edge of the commercial parcel, and then you can see the homes that line that green space turning their front door and front porch to the green space instead of a back door and a 6-foot privacy fence. So a really nice interaction between the homes and the way people live in the homes and the way people use and experience the open space and the trails and everything else. Next slide. I wanted to talk in a little bit more specifics about the trees. This slide shows you the trees on site. We're saving the vast majority of the specimen trees on the site and a whole lot of the other smaller trees as well. So you can see in the darkest green, those are our saved trees. In addition, we're committed to planting street trees on all of the non-parkway new streets, so all of the local streets and that entry boulevard. And then, of course, your code already requires a certain number of trees to be planted on each lot. So when you combine all those factors together, there will be more than 4 trees per home on this project when it's over, when you count both existing saved and newly planted trees. So it's going to be a really well-treed, well-forested site. Next slide. And then just a look at the wide tree lawns that allow for tree-lined streets, wide sidewalks, great walking environments. You can see, homes with front porches, no garages. You can see some sample elevations we're working on for some of the homes in the project right now over here on the right. So that gives you a sense of the character of what the actual homes and streets will be like in the project. Next slide. Yeah, so this is where I turn it back over to Daniel to talk to you about numbers, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have either now or at the end of the presentation.
Would y'all like to ask some questions now or provide comments or get all the way through?
What about street parking? Is that going to be just on either side?
Yeah, most of the roadways will allow street parking on one side. You can see, there's a typical section that, go back forward a couple of slides. So you can see there's parking allowed on one side of the road in both the parkway and on the local streets.
Okay.
The ponds that y'all have listed in these plans, are those detention ponds?
There will be water quality in detention ponds, yes.
And the pump station that's on there, is that for wastewater pump?
That pump station is for the RM 150 line that runs up to Anthem and then comes back down and feeds Six Creeks and our development, and then some of the neighbors here.
And so it's for water, and that pump station easement was dedicated to the city. It was contemplated a long time ago. There were some issues with it. We got involved, and when we got involved, we managed to facilitate the rededication of that easement, which facilitated the utility infrastructure for this whole area. And so ultimately that is a pump station that services Anthem and Six Creeks, and it services all the way over to Plum Creek as well.
And just one last question I have, the roundabout at the end of the main entry boulevard, is that wide enough in its construction to accommodate emergency vehicles such as fire trucks?
Yes, sir. It's actually very similar in size to the ones in Plum Creek, but it will be plenty wide to accommodate those turning movements.
I had a question regarding the amenity site. I noticed there was not parking for the amenities. Where would the neighborhood be parking to go to the amenities?
So, I mean, two-part answer to that question. So there's not a final design for that site as of now, and we may well provide parking in the final version of that site plan. There is on-street parking on all of these streets, one side of the street everywhere. So there are opportunities for parking to occur without on-site parking, but we may well provide on-site parking on that amenity site. And if that's something that's important, I think we could consider making something.
I would add that as well, Commissioner. If that's something that's important, and I agree with you that it should be, we'll definitely give it due consideration and add it to the planning.
I have a question about the residences along 150. Are they going to be, they'll have the garages in the front of the house? Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
Well, actually, most of those are still, so the middle yellow color that you see, those units actually have garages behind them, but they have a shared driveway between every other lot. So there'll be a shared driveway running down the property line on these lots to reach two garages at the back that serve those two homes. So we still will have a rear garage, but it's front loaded. It's loaded off the road in front. Only the sort of like colored lots have an actual front garage.
Yeah, can you describe that product in greater detail, Robert, please, for everyone's benefit?
Yeah, so it's, it functions much like an alley loaded product, and that the garage is fully detached and in the rear of the building. And we basically just make each of the lots 5 feet wider than we otherwise would to accommodate the same size house. And that gives us a space for a shared driveway that runs right down that property line. It'll have an easement on it that gives both property owners rights to that driveway. And then it'll fork out behind the home to reach two side-by-side garages at the rear of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Commissioner, it's really a great way to get that garage off the front of the house and really kind of enhance the aesthetic of the overall community.
Okay, so you would only enter through your new street. You don't come off of 150 into individual houses.
That's correct.
Commissioner, that's correct.
But as Commissioner McCall is saying, I noticed on the 60-foot lots, front garage.
Yes, so those 60-foot lots, there will be a front garage, but it'll still be set back at least 5 feet from the front facade of the rest of the house, in compliance with the City of Kyle codes that require that setback on those wider lots.
And we've tried to be very intentional in splitting those lots up so you don't get a lot of driveways on any one stretch of street, or you'll have some diversity in what the street scene looks like, which I think can be really beneficial, but not have one single street that's overloaded by front or rear load product.
And I would add to that, commissioners, one of the things that we really do that's kind of a small detail, but it's one of the things that kind of helps differentiate is we'll set the houses a couple feet off of a line, right? And so you'll have some houses that are a couple foot forward, and then some that are a couple foot back. And so you get a little bit of undulation in the facade, which really helps differentiate the community, as well as all the diversity of the different types of houses that we'll be building in there. So you get really a truly, more eclectic feel in the community with unique homes, sort of a unique home feel, as opposed to, just kind of the cookie cutter program.
And a question I have on the trees. Plum Creek, the old phase of Plum Creek, was inundated by really too many trees. And as a result of it, some people lost grass in their front yards. Other people suffered damage to the front sidewalks of their homes. And I'm wondering, what is the distance that we're looking at for the tree planting here on that?
So the commitment we've put into the PUD is trees at 50 feet on center along the streets. So that is not packed together by any means. There is distance between those trees to let light in and let roots grow naturally. We're also proposing a larger than usual 8-foot tree lawn to provide more space for those trees' root systems to develop in a way that won't damage the infrastructure around them.
What does the interface with the commercial site look like there? Is it kind of shielded, or do you have any artist renderings of that? Just curious.
Yeah, we do not have any renderings there, but that interface will, our intent and our hope is to somewhat integrate those commercial parcels into the neighborhood so that they are serving the neighborhood. So, we obviously want to be mindful of how that interaction happens, but there's, a fair amount of green space buffer between the nearest homes and that commercial parcel, as well as a roadway. So we think we have the space there to create a compatible transition between the two uses that still allows for good access between the two uses, so that homeowners can easily access the resources and amenities that we are hoping that commercial site will provide for them.
The only way in, though, will be right there through the the name of the street there, Rocking Horse, or?
Yeah, that would be it. That would be our intended entry point. Whether or not there will be a driveway onto 150 here is not. I don't know that for sure at this time. Again, another thing that's not fully baked right now, but that's certainly in discussion, is potentially developing this in concert with some of the land next to it, in concert with that landowner, which would provide a lot more flexibility in figuring out how that internal circulation system should work.
Yes, and commissioners, if I may also just add a little bit to the answer to that question. So our intention, at least in the preliminary discussions we've had, is if you look where the future commercial parcels label is on the plan, the folks that own that parcel of land are interested in purchasing our commercial. And so that's going to give us the ability to make certain, if we do move forward with the transaction there, that's going to give us certain abilities to require stipulations on how that gets built. And so, as you can imagine, we're very sensitive to the aesthetic of how that gets built and developed at the front of our project. And then the cohesiveness with which it gets developed so that it integrates into our project, as opposed to, just becoming some sort of strip center type stuff up front there. And so our expectation is that we'll collaborate with them as part of that discussion, and then place requirements in the restrictive covenants on that before we sell it, so that it becomes an integrated element of the overall community.
Question on the entry is, am I correct in seeing one entry into this subdivision?
Robert, I'll let you answer that in a second, but there's a total of 3 connection points two of which will go out to the sort of page south there, if you will, into the adjacent community that is prospectively being planned and developed in the near future.
And there is actually a fourth entry off of 150 on the left side of the screen where the arrow is pointing right now. So there'll be two access points to the project even before the Six Creeks project is developed and connected.
I have a question on the shared driveways. Are they large enough for each homeowner to be able to park cars on them?
No, the intent is the shared portion of the driveway would not have parking on it, but the driveway in front of the garages is deep enough to park 2 additional cars there. So you still have 4 off-street parking spaces per home. But the shared part of the driveway that goes between the homes isn't where you want those cars to stay. You want them to get around behind the home and then park in front of the garage.
So only the 60 lots would have the, I guess, parking for the cars, correct?
In the front.
Only in the front. The others will have it in front of their garage, but it'll be at the rear of the home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would be the 60 lots.
So the 60 lots will look, like a typical front loaded product where the garage, you've got, parking for 2 cars in front of the garage that's connected to the house. The 55-foot lots will have that garage tucked back here in the back next to their neighbor's garage, detached from the house. And it'll have a long driveway back that, 1 car can come in and out of. And then there'll be 2 parking spots in front of each garage back here in the back.
Okay.
And then on the 40-foot lots, there'll be the driveway will be long enough off the alley for 2 cars to park in the driveway in front of the garage that's connected to the house, the back of the house. So every house will have 2 off-street parking spaces.
Okay, thank you.
Well, commissioners, thank you for the questions. Daniel, if you can move on with the rest of the presentation, and we'll be happy to answer questions as you have them.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you very much for the input.
So the other things that we were touching on pretty quickly was just the economic benefits to the city as a result of the build out of this project. We're estimating about $10.5 million in additional tax revenue for the city over the next 20 years, which is roughly $500,000 a year at project build out. And that grows over time as property valuations grow. And Kyle, we are considering putting a PID, a public improvement district, in place to help fund some of those beautifications that you saw. Some of the things we were talking about is getting the power lines off of 150 down and in the street. But then that, nice big entry, the amenitization of the park and all that open space in the park and the landscaping there. So really going to help fund the ability to build a nicer community than you would otherwise be able to do here. And what the total kind of economic benefit to the city looks like between the tax assessment revenues, some of the project funds and city PID improvements, permitting fees, and impact fees is a total of about $12 million. And then just kind of summary of the goals that we feel like this project accomplishes. They're that unique kind of interconnected neighborhood centered around those shared spaces that you saw with the front porches and that parkway running through and the dog park. The residential development that supports the neighborhood identity and social interaction. Again, those front yards on the parkway and all the centralized gathering spaces. Honoring Kyle's history and character with the name. The first female mayor and descendant of the founding family. The quality that Robert talked about with that entry and the board form concrete and the Corten steel. incorporating the natural landscapes, preserving all those big oak tree mottes that you saw there, and incorporating the natural elements into the landscape design. We're hitting that preferred density for the Midtown District, which a large portion of this property is in, and then considerable new revenue generated for the city, which also includes the sales tax that could be generated from that commercial portion. And that is the end of our presentation. What further questions or comments do y'all have regarding this project? Feedback?
Can you explain how the PID works a little more? I'm confused on how a PID works.
Okay, so a PID is basically there's a tax assessment that, similarly to a tax assessment, that is charged to the landowners in the area for a fixed period of time until the bonds that are issued in relation to that PID are paid off. And what that looks like is, we're targeting about a 3.05 combined tax rate between all the other taxes for the city of Kyle and then for the district. And you can see how that kind of stacks up against some of the other PIDs and MUDs in the area, like with Six Creeks and Sunfield and some of the other crosswinds. So we're kind of coming in right in the middle of the other communities.
Who's the guarantor of the PIDs?
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, Daniel, thank you. So the guarantor on the PID is really just the assessment that's made on the houses. The city does not guarantee the PID bond issuances. So it's basically underwritten. I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
There's no risk to the city on that in the unfortunate event of a default or something like that.
Commissioner, yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you.
And I would add that on this PID, the incremental tax. So after the property is annexed into the city, all the city taxes are paid like they normally would. There's a relatively small margin of additional incremental tax that's available for the PID, and so it's a pretty nominal PID in terms of the scheme of things, and it does not cover the cost of all of the additional benefits that we've built into the project, all of the stuff that we just discussed. So that, I guess another way of putting that is the city is getting very good value out of this PID in terms of the aesthetic and the execution of the community that it's bringing. Commissioners, if there's no further questions, I would just reiterate how much we appreciate y'all taking the time to hear us on it. And with no further questions, would mention that with a few refinements, we hope to be back in front of you in the not too distant future for a formal review and hopefully approval.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you all very much.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 7. Zoning. Consider a request by Kyle Chateau Bella Incorporated, Z200065, to rezone and reduce to approximately 2.3 acres of land from PUD Neighborhood Commercial NC to PUD Neighborhood Commercial NC, rezone and increase to approximately 27.215 acres of land from PUD Residential Condominium R1C to PUD Residential Condominium R1C, and rezone and reduce to approximately 3.824 acres of land from PUD Agriculture A to PUD Agriculture A for property located at 602 Creekside Trail in Hayes County, Texas. We have a public hearing for this item, so I will open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak to this item at all? Anyone? Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing on this item. Mr. Atkinson.
Good evening. Let me pull up my stuff here real quick. Where did I put it? Bear with me just a moment. Here we go. All right, before you, we have petition number Z20-0065. Y'all have seen this PUD zoning before a couple years back. It's at 602 Creekside Trail over on the southeast side of town. What they're essentially doing is putting together an assisted living facility for the senior population, and they're moving the project forward. In a nutshell, what this is, they are just adjusting the boundary lines of the zoning districts within the PUD to account for some site plan adjustments that have been more refined. And so they're not really changing the PUD, if you will. They're just refining some internal lot lines. And the project's moving along very well, and we're very excited about it. I mean, that's essentially it. I've never had something this short before from a presentation. Right here is a proposed internal zoning boundaries. Before, if you're looking at this on Exhibit A, you can tell the neighborhood commercial is a little bit larger versus they've made it smaller right here, which in turn increases the R1C district. And then on the ag side of things, they're reducing that a little bit to account for a little bit more development room over here on the north side of the project. But please keep in mind that all the residential and everything is going to be outside of that floodplain. And I believe they're also going to be dedicating, they're in talks with the Parks Department to dedicate the parkland as well. That's it in a nutshell. Staff recommends it to help them move their project along. They're very excited about doing this. And we ask that y'all recommend approving it as well. Y'all have any questions?
Yeah, Will, I've got one.
Sure.
So we have zoning in the riparian landscape area of this.
Correct.
Why?
Because it is a PUD, they were able to, well, okay, so first of all, the riparian district doesn't exclude zoning. The riparian district is a general land use district boundary that sometimes does not match the floodplain. It's just to kind of give you an idea of where stuff comes into play. And then within the PUD, prior to this, they were granted the R1C zoning district and to be able to build these cottages and what have you, but they will be out of the floodplain for all of their development.
I was just a little concerned with what the riparian landscape stands for and protecting the creeks right there from any type of development or any type of man-made substances that could accidentally run off into the creek. But are we having any type of challenges of that nature in this situation?
Not at this time. It's still a greenfield right now. It's never been developed. As part of the development process, whenever they go through the process, they have to put up stormwater protection, silt fencing, and they have to maintain it as well. Whenever they build it out, as any part of it a project has, they have to maintain their project and keep it clean. If they don't, they can get code enforcement called on them and what have you. Hopefully they don't. Usually business owners tend to take good pride in their projects. But as staff is going through this and reviewing it from the site plan level, we are making sure that it is code compliant.
Thank you, Will.
Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, can I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 7A on zoning.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Yay. Item number 8, general discussion. Commission direction to staff regarding the draft future land use map. Mr. Coons.
I was muted. Sorry, you missed that. Brilliant.
That was intentional.
No.
Oh.
But I had some brilliant verbiage there, and you missed it all. Sorry about that.
Oh.
Have to try harder next time.
We're disappointed.
I'm sure you're not. Okay, so what I wanted to go over here, really items 8A, B, and C are all interrelated. They're the continuing discussion of our future land use map. At our work session in October, we had talked about the idea of making 2 sets of changes, and I'm trying to share my screen here. I think this is going to work. Tell me if you see the future land use map. You should. Land use district.
There it is. I see it.
This map is, by our estimation, by our understanding, we went over our maps. Steve Clamens, who's our map operator, and assistance from Chad probably, and a little bit of input from Will. This is the product of the discussions that we had up to and including the work session in at the end of October. And some of the notable changes were removing this portion of Post Oak subdivision. I guess you can see my cursor there. The Post Oak subdivision coming out of the regional node. There's a little bit more of it up there. And the big part, the entire reason for this map amendment that it got started was the areas that were on the far west end of the city over here that were crosshatched that had no assignment have been assigned ranch landscape and riparian. And then the same thing was done over here in the transitional settlement and the heritage community. Those little areas over there were had the neighboring character areas assigned to them as well. And then we made a larger change down here at what we're terming our Eastern Gateway District, which is the entry into the city on 150 as you come off of 21, placing a regional node in the vicinity of that T intersection down there, and having another one here at the intersection of Heidenreich and 150, and then the remainder, including much of Pecan Woods and all the other area that's down there that's in our corporate limits now, has been assigned a gateway. And the map you'll see here has been pretty much complete. I'll talk about it a little bit again, but before I get too much further, there was a second part of the deliverable that fell largely on my shoulders, and I was not able to get that done before the packet had to been posted. And that was the edits to the verbiage in the comprehensive plan that matches with the districts that are on this map. Specifically, I needed to create the language related to the Eastern Gateway. I was able to get the bones of that put together, but I did not get a draft polished to the point where I could get it in front of you. So I'm hoping to do that at our work session, which I hope will be the evening of Tuesday, the 24th. We'll talk about that towards the end of the meeting as well. So coming back to the map, the point of items 8, A through C, is not for you to vote to approve or disapprove this map. The point of bringing this up on the agenda is effectively a vote of confidence It's basically for you to recognize that this is the culmination of the discussions that we've had thus far. Staff has met the intent of your discussion and your debate and your input and your amendments. And this is right. And this is what we should continue to move forward with as we put this to the public. And hopefully have a public comment period where folks can look at this and review it and give us some comments. So that's where we're going to go when we get to the end of this. One thing I wanted to point out about the map changes that we made over the past 2 weeks is once we made the first set of changes, I guess, sort of picked out a couple of idiosyncrasies that I realized would probably be appropriate to make based upon the changes that were discussed. And I wanted to get that map in front of you by tonight, but to do that, I would have had to post it last Thursday. So instead, I'm going to just bring it up right at the meeting. This is something that's a little bit different. You probably can't even tell that I'm actually switching between maps right now if it wasn't shifting just the tiniest little bit. But I tell you that the one change to this map that you're looking at right now that's not present in the one is because we made this notch in the regional node in recognition of the idea that the Post Oak subdivision is built and exists, and technically the assignment of single family detached residential in that regional node would effectively be non-conforming. And I thought, well, if we're doing that for Post Oak, is that not appropriate to do for the other projects that are already built in the city that predated the assignment of the regional node and were made non-conforming back in 2017 when the regional node was assigned here? So for that reason, I've also asked that Steve make a notch for Quail Ridge, which is residential, single family detached residential, and is located partially in the regional node. So we've taken that out. There's a little bit up here for, not Prairie on the Creek, the one to the south of that, the one right on where our economic development director lives. It's Mason Wood is the street that goes through it, but I can't remember the name of the subdivision right now. But anyway, we've made a little bit of a notch in there for that. And then additionally, we've taken the single family detached in Amberwood out because it used to have a fair portion of the front of that, which was consumed by the regional node. Somebody really wants my attention. I guess they don't realize that every Tuesday for the past 18 years, I've had a night meeting and I don't have the opportunity to talk with them. So anyway, sorry about that, but this is the change. I'm going to put the map up. This is the map that is our understanding of the discussion. This is the map that we would actually like to move forward with the addition of the other districts that are cut out. So comments.
Do you
really
have the?
would like to hear some discussion. I know some of you wanted to talk a little bit about the local node that's been placed over here at World Class on Bunton, and whether or not we had enough discussion about that last time, or if there's other issues that need to be brought up about that, or anything else, even stuff that hasn't come up before, something that you want to bring up again, or something that you thought was put to bed and you want changed.
Can you put the before up?
Sure can. There you go.
I mean the before.
That is the before. You're looking at the. Oh! You mean what we started
The
with
current
in
land use map.
September? Yes, I can. Can you give me a minute? I don't have it up but I can go dig for it. Give me 1 second.
I have a question though, Howard, in the meantime.
Please go ahead.
Wasn't the gateway supposed to go all the way out to Yarrington Road? Because when I discussed my portion of the farmland, it went out to Yarrington Road. But according to the map there, it doesn't go all the way out there.
Okay, so that really isn't in the meantime. I have to stop doing my Paul thing and answer. So Yarrington is right here.
Or yes.
Yarrington crosses 35 and the regional node goes to Yarrington. So what was your...
The East Gateway District? Because I had the farmland, which was just
Oh,
south.
you want
Yeah,
it to be over this?
Yeah, it was all of that. And
That's
that's
not
what,
City of Kyle. That is San Marcos ETJ.
because doesn't 158's going to come down through there, and I thought the gateway was going to stretch through there.
158 is right here.
That is 158.
Yep.
Oh,
That's so this is Woodlands. This is
Cool Springs.
yes, Cool Springs with the disc
okay.
golf course or whatever they're building in there. This is some of the lower density stuff that was developed in the county, and then down here is 21. So this is the Waterstone. Yes, I think they're calling it Waterstone or Water Ridge. Waterstone, right?
Waterstone, I think.
Waterstone.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is entirely within the San Marcos ETJ, so we don't have any assignment there. And then everything else that's in our city limits has an assignment.
Okay. No, I'm just really bad at maps. Can you tell?
No, it's not unique. I get that.
That's why I'm not allowed to have a map if we drive.
10 years ago, you were correct, though, right?
Where do I have that map, Paul?
Would it be under
Just the one
comp
off the
plan
city
on the
website.
planning page?
It should be.
Or maybe in the agenda from the prior meeting, actually.
Yeah, that would be the easiest one to find. Land Use Districts May 2017 final. I think this is it. Check. This looks pretty close. I'm going to go with this. So give me 1 second. And let me share my screen.
There it is.
Might not be at the same scale because this is an older, this map was made in 2017, but this could be the same information.
Okay.
So did you have a specific question about it, or did you just
No, I
want to?
just wanted to be able to flip over to it and look in case we needed to, but
Okay, so there's that, and there's the new thing, and there's what we started with.
okay.
Howard, I have a question.
Please.
Will this new land use map be incorporated into the new comprehensive plan? And can we depend on whoever we select to do the comprehensive plan will accept it?
Okay, so first part, yes, that is what this amendment is. This is functionally an amendment to the 2010 plan to basically reflect our new boundaries. The second part of your statement is somewhat of a non sequitur. I don't have any understanding that there is anybody that's looking at a comprehensive plan rewrite or reevaluation or just a completely new document in Kyle. However, if somebody were to come along, my expectation would be that in the course of a new plan, they might use our new document that we're planning as a starting point. In fact, they may like it and use it and move it forward, but it would be just as likely that they would start over. I mean, that's kind of the point of long range planning, is to take a snapshot of where you are and then make a plan for where you're going. I don't know necessarily that if a third party were to come in and affect a comprehensive plan for the city of Kyle that would be related to 2040 or 2045, if they would want to use the roadmap that we've been using for the last 10 years, it's likely they would probably want to do an evaluation of where Kyle is and where it wants to go, and then make the map according to that analysis. So my expectation, if I were the practitioner that was doing this, I would probably respect the map as an artifact of what had happened over the past decade, but I would probably work towards making a new one.
Okay, and also, I apologize to everybody that wasn't here for the workshop, but I was doing my managers at another property were on vacation. I was working a lot of hours. When y'all put this land use map together at the workshop, was transportation analysis kind of factored into this?
I'll let the folks that worked on that weigh in. My expectation was yes. We had the master transportation plan, I think is what it's called, the City of Kyle's master transportation plan. And some of the maps that we've provided in the past, back in the September meetings, showed the major corridors through Kyle, both planned and existing, and how they relate to our character areas.
Thanks, Howard.
So Howard, the East Gateway District down there, regional node, there was some mention maybe of perhaps being a super regional node. I guess you guys had a couple weeks to think about it. What's the thought there? That's regional node. That's what we think we should go with instead of super regional.
Agreed. I think the super regional node was really a higher activity and classification, mostly in reliance on I-35.
Okay.
Right now, 21 and 150 is not the same classification of intersection or district as you've got with an interstate highway and 1626. But that being said, I think everything that needs to come out of the ground on the Eastern Gateway can do so very well with the regional node. We can get shopping, we can get working, we could get recreation down there. You could get higher density residential. We can get everything we need to make that district down there, because the other consideration is, most everything we do in the super regional node is conditional, but we do so knowing full well that we've got wet utilities and surface infrastructure, not only in place, but more than enough of it for anything we need. The East Gateway is still very rural down there. And there's some stuff that's going to have to be carefully planned before it can come out of the ground. You don't see a lot of grocery stores on septic when you've got public wastewater available. In rural districts, you do. It's not unheard of. It's pretty common in places that don't have shared wastewater. But Kyle having public wastewater available, we need to be real careful on what goes down there, because it's not as ready for prime time as our super regional node is.
Got it.
Hey, Howard, I was under the impression that right there in the East Gateway District now, that I thought that Harper told me that we're building a pumping station out there for the wastewater.
So there is a lift station currently in front of the school that is for the benefit of the school. It does not have additional capacity, to my understanding, based solely on the size of the lift station and the line through which it pumps. But it goes back up to, I think it goes back up and pumps to a place somewhere around Waterleaf, where it can gravity up to the treatment plant now. I'm not aware that no one has told me specifically that the city is planning anything regional for a lift station out here. We have a very large lift station being constructed right now on Post Road on the west side of 35. That is going to create the availability of wastewater in our southwest quadrant, but I'm not aware of anything here, especially in light of the fact that I guess it's County Line that's building a wastewater treatment plant, or has one planned anyway, right at this intersection, and I'm going to call it south of 21, just on the other side of our city limit, that they're going to put a plant right there, which my expectation would be they would capture some CCN down here that would gravity to that plant. So that's going to have a more appreciable effect than my understanding of Kyle building another wastewater lift station in this section of the city.
Thanks, Howard.
Howard,
Yes.
about that. Okay, so a couple of things. I do like the name East Gateway District. I think it fits the area pretty well. Also, thank you for doing those additional edits to the regional node to help shape where the subdivisions already are. The question I have though is about the regional node in the East Gateway District. So it's kind of a semicircle right there at the intersection, but like the regional node around 35 kind of follows the road. Wouldn't we want the regional node with 21 to go a bit further south and follow the road as well?
Bit further south. So the regional nodes, as they're described in the comprehensive plan, are based on a radius.
Okay.
The local nodes have the smallest. The regional nodes are a little bit bigger, and then this super regional node, I think, probably came somewhat after the fact, and was actually designed to encompass a certain neighborhood or a series of blocks, and wasn't predicated on a size metric. Down here, primarily we've stuck to that radius. There's just a little bit of an opening here that would have been lost otherwise. We wanted to make sure that it went far enough up 21 that it would create enough frontage to create an actual gateway into the city. But that did leave a couple of remnants that would have been, just sort of choked out on this map at about 3 o'clock and about 8 o'clock on the map. So we filled in this one here just commensurate with the existing city limits.
South of that, though, that's what, Uland EHJ or San Marcos?
Gonna guess San Marcos ETJ, but I'm not sure. I'd have to get my
It's not Kyle, though,
map
I
up.
guess, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not perfectly round because it's not part of Kyle. You see.
Yeah, it didn't come over the other side. And anything on this map that's just white is not ours to decide. For one reason or the other, it's just either another jurisdiction, it's outside of our corporate limits and outside of our ETJ, or what have you.
Alex, I have a question. Did you mean that you're looking at the regional nodes on 35 as being shaped like rectangles, and then the new regional node is a circle? And why wasn't
Right.
that?
Okay.
And why?
So, yes. So the circle we have now, the 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock of that circle, there's a small section that's still on 21, but it's East Gateway District, not regional node. I just thought we don't have a lot of real estate on 21. I would have thought we would want it all to be part of the regional node.
I think, let me dig something up. So
I get what he's saying.
While I'm looking at this, so the application of regional node in 2017 on the map was commensurate with the boundaries of the I-35 overlay.
Yeah.
The expectation was if we had an aesthetic requirement for what was happening on 35, we should also have a similar land use requirement for what's happening on 35. It was never envisioned, I don't think, in 2010 when this plan was put together, that there would have been a node that ran entirely within 1,500 feet of the center line of the I-35 right-of-way. That in and of itself is not a node. It misses the point of having the hub of activity. Instead, it is a corridor.
But but that's what we have. We have it. You have it out as this big, huge corridor.
Yep, that's what they did. We did. We assigned it. So when we got, because it was in reference to the idea that we already had an aesthetic requirement that was associated with I-35, and the aesthetic requirement was in recognition of the fact that it's a high traffic corridor with a lot of visibility.
And they want it to look pretty when people come in.
Not only that, but things that look pretty tend to do well in the business world. People want to shop in places that are clean, in places that look like they're high quality. My example is always gas stations. But Buc-ee's, QT, there are certain gas stations out there that really have quite a different aesthetic.
Right.
What you might think of the place with, the the blinking fluorescent lights and maybe the sign is falling off the side and it's dirty
But
and they crash around.
I understand all that, but what does that have to do with it being a regional node?
Okay, so the aesthetics were recognized as being important, but one thing that was not addressed was the uses that were allowable or what would be expected in that same district. We wanted whatever was there to be pretty, but we didn't necessarily have a clear vision of what we wanted there. We just know that we just knew we wanted it to look nice. So the expectation was it appropriate to have land uses in that I-35 overlay that were high enough and intense enough, similar to what we would get in regional nodes? And that was seen as being appropriate. Yes, that's the kind of land use we want. Not the bulk standards, not the metric of how tall buildings need to be or whether or not they have to have brick or whether or not they have to have trees planted in the parking lot, but what actually was going to go on there. So they found that we've already dealt with the aesthetics, let's deal with the land use and have them with commensurate borders. The idea in the comprehensive plan that it was already defined as a node, they were defined as nodes because they were defined as a walking radius from a point, and that's why they're circles. The orangish circles are a little bit bigger than the yellow ones, which are smaller. And then there's the dark orange ones or brownish or whatever super regional node, which is even bigger. The more intense they were allowed to be, the larger they were allowed to be where they were located. So that was the idea of creating that. When I spoke with with Steve and taking the cues that we had from the last work session, went back to the original way that they were assigned, which was, nodes. They were radiuses.
A node is, yeah.
And that's why it was assigned at the intersection of 21 and 150. All things being equal, I probably would have preferred that it be a semicircle, just half of which, the longest radius being on the 21 side.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't enough for me because I wanted it to go further up 21. I wanted it to go all the way up to and get as close to the school as possible. And so I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to see if I can't flip back and forth between the two. So this is an aerial map. And what I want to try and do is make some measurements. So if we look at this and we find the regional node, the border on, the western side is probably about halfway between where 21 and the city limit is. So if we look at that here, this is effectively where that city limit is. And this is that blue stream. The blue stream that you see right here is actually a little bit tougher to see, but it's right here. It comes across kind of right in the halfway point of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'll see how far that node comes down about halfway between the road and where that stream crosses, it's about halfway between those. So a line from here to about, I'm going to say halfway between where that stream crosses is probably about right there. And that is 2,000 feet. Now, when you look at this map, it looks really small.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like you could walk it from one side to the other in about 5 minutes. But from one side of this circle to the other is 4/5 of a mile. So the regional node is actually really big. It's a 2,000 foot probably circle or 2,500 foot circle, as opposed to the local nodes, which are probably more in the neighborhood of about 1,200, maybe 1,000, 1,200 feet. They're a little bit smaller. So this one is bigger. If there's a desire to instead just have the entire city frontage over which we have control back to a certain point of 21 frontage be that node, so be it. I guess what I'm saying is we could fill in this little space there, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
That's your expectation. But I just want to make sure that we don't shrink it away from coming up this, because I'd really like this node and this one to sort of grow together.
Yeah.
based upon what we've got out there now. One of those nodes is here, and then the other one is here, and then this is all Walton anyway. So Walton's going to have a little bit of commercial that faces both of these streets. That is going to create a little bit of a visual block to the sense of place you get of the residential that's behind. So I think we know, when you drive from this gas station before you get back to Heidenreich, it's a pretty good drive from there to there. It's
Yeah, it is.
Over 10,000 feet. So it's 10,500 feet would be 2 miles. So from Heidenreich back to 21, 10,300 feet, almost 2 miles. So what's your all's feeling?
If we kept it like it is now, what would we preclude from being able to be built in that small area you were hovering around?
What would we preclude in here?
Well, what were the recommended and conditional differences between the East Gateway and the regional node being?
That's a good question. I don't have what we included in the East Gateway in front of me. It's in my notes. The regional node will be a higher intensity. It'll allow for more uses that would be able to go there, especially as a mix in a horizontal or vertical mix.
Was the East Gateway supposed to be similar to uses that are found in the Newtown community?
I think it was.
Yeah, that's what memory serves. Not exactly, but.
What do you think, Alex? You brought this up.
Yeah, I do suggest we just kind of incorporate that small area that's on 21 into the regional node. So it won't be a perfect semicircle, but just kind of drag it down a bit more. So that way the entire area that we have on 21 right there would be part of the regional node.
Do you want it to follow that western boundary line that parallels 21?
Do you want to stretch it out a bit?
That's fine. It was. I don't exactly know how to draw it. I just wanted that area on 21 to be included. But yes, we could definitely just drag it out a bit to that boundary. So yes, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like that. I mean, maybe.
Right. Either one of those is
fine.
Just as long as we're able to include all that area, I think it's a good move.
Would that hinder any of the housing developments from having access to 21 though?
No, I mean, you could still build driveways or roads or whatever you need through it.
That's a good idea, Alex. I have to say I like it.
Thank you.
All right, so we're good with the notches that take the existing residential out. We want to expand this node maybe to take up these two lots entirely. Anything that has the frontage on 21 at least.
Yeah.
Do you need to notch that regional node that's the farthest west?
This one? I'm sorry, regional.
That one?
Yeah, it looks like you got a little bit of development there.
Oh, because that's not Arroyo Ranch. What's the name of that place? Where is it? There's two of them out there. I don't remember. Not sure.
Blanco Vista?
That's in the city.
Oh, that's further south.
But yeah, I see what you're up to.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I was saying, hey, it looks like there might be one there too.
Okay. Somebody making tea?
I've heard that all night.
Been making it for about 15 minutes now.
Yes, I've heard it all night. It's not me.
I'm just a heavy breather.
Rebecca,
No
do you still
comment.
have your hand up, or are you good?
Any
No,
other
I'm good.
questions? Comments? Nonsense?
I think
Okay,
my
we-
only concern with the regional node going all the way out is for the development for homes behind it, that they're not, the access for them to get there, that they'd be driving through businesses or whatever to get to their homes. That'd be my only concern.
I mean, that might be, and that's not uncommon, for there to be a road that as you leave the neighborhood, right before you get to the main road, there's, a couple of businesses out there that you drive through. Pretty common land development pattern. It's actually starting in Kyle on Crosswinds, which is out on Windy Hill east of the city. It's not in the city limits. It's on the south side of Windy Hill as you go east. And the portion of Crosswinds that touches the Windy Hill is actually it's right here. It's this regional. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. It's in this regional node right here. This over here is the Crosswinds project, and then when you get out here, this portion of land that's really underneath the word node has quite a bit of commercial zone. It's not zoned because it's in the county, but there's an assignment of land in the development agreement, and I guess at some point when the market catches up to the rooftops out there and finds a means to put some non-residential out there, these folks will leave, and as they're on the Crosswinds Boulevard or whatever it's called that heads up towards Shadow Creek, that there'll be at least commercial on the right side of that driveway, if not flanking both sides of the driveway. So that might be the same thing that ends up happening here. It's certainly going to happen on 35. The road that is eventually going to punch back through and go back to Waterstone, that's coming through over here, all the commercial on the frontage road on that road. And then as you continue back on that road, eventually it'll transition from being mostly commercial to mostly residential.
Anything else?
Just want to make sure that nobody objects. We'll make those changes, and then we'll probably have, fingers crossed, a draft for you of the East Gateway District information. I don't recall there being any other major changes to any of the other districts that needed amendments. If you can think of any, go ahead and text or email me those, but I'll go back through my notes again and make sure. But most of my concentration I tried to get through was just the creation of the East Gateway District and the descriptions that went along with that.
Okay, what about this discussion regarding warehouse and construction manufacturing zoning in the regional node conditionally? You want to talk about that?
I think
On
the
the
city planner
agenda.
did.
Huh?
I think the city planner wanted to talk about it.
I do.
Yes, he did. Did he really?
I do. I know we talked about it to some extent last time, but I wanted to get some more clarity on what exactly we want to do to incorporate the warehouse zoning or the CM zoning in regional nodes, and where exactly. I think we mostly discussed it with it being along I-35 last time, but not sure if we want to place it on the list whenever we're inserting it into the completed comp plan, where it says, as a note that says, warehouse or CM uses can be considered conditionally in regional nodes along I-35, or if we want to create a new district specifically to allow that as a regional node, but also to visually show that warehouse and CM can be in certain areas of the city. I don't know what y'all are looking for.
Where could they be right now?
In the regional nodes, they can't. But I know there was a lot of discussion last time with Paul about, including them in regional nodes, perhaps, and along I-35 primarily. It seems like where the discussion was, and I just want to have a better idea of how we do that. What ways y'all are comfortable with that we can incorporate into that as an update?
Well, if the reason for the overlay districts and the everything looking nice on 35 for people to stop in and create more business is why we have them as regional nodes all the way up and down with the overlays and all that stuff. Where does warehouse and construction manufacturing fit in that?
Correct.
In my mind, I don't see how that fits in, but maybe I'm just missing it. It could just be me, but I don't see where that fits in.
I agree, Michelle. I agree.
So, go ahead, Paul.
Well, I disagree, actually. We don't have areas in what I would say are traditionally very attractive spaces to locate manufacturing kind of facilities within the city. We don't have it set up such that they can be rezoned to that with the way our current land use map is set up, and that's why I was pushing hard for us to make that change. I mean, big picture, I think we need to rewrite the entire plan and have special districts allocated just for that. But in the absence of that, I think we've got to make some kind of nod to it, because we really need to, as the city's talked about doing, creating a place where we can work, live, and play, and work being the first one on there, instead of us being just a commuter community where we're all traveling to Austin, San Antonio. So do I think that's appropriate in every one of the regional nodes? No. My concern was that we opened the possibility for that regional node in the southeast area of the town. And I think the new regional node that we were looking at creating over at 21 and 150, that's another area too where I think we have good, strong possibilities of bringing in manufacturing opportunities to the city. So
I'm gonna go. Go ahead.
I'll weigh in on this. So I believe at one point in the past, the city of Kyle recognized the number of cars per day that were coming through on I-35 was a segment of the buying public that they could not or did not capture. There were a number of people that went through every day and saw everything that we are and everything that we were potentially, but it wasn't being realized. And the expectation was that we should locate businesses along I-35 that would draw from counties away. I mean, people that were far enough away that they would drive to Kyle on Saturday for the day and go there. So it would be things like, warehouse grocery store, Sam's, Costco, BJ's Wholesale, whatever they have down here. That kind of thing, that is destination retail. Maybe, and I know it changed a little bit later on, but maybe things like automobile dealers. That is not the kind of thing that you find on every corner in every community, but that you would have to drive to Kyle to go and do that. Or other types of activity centers that, we're sort of talked about. Endeavor was talked about for a while as being a real activity center. I don't know. We'll see how it goes in the actual practicing when it comes out of the ground. But it was supposed to be the kind of place where you would show up in the morning and you could walk around all day and window shop and actually shop and get a meal. And there would be places for passive recreation and that kind of things. But no matter what it was, is that it would be a destination. That's one line of thinking when it comes to the development of a community. Now, there's another part of the development of a community that is related to jobs and employment. And one of the more sought after or the more bread and butter type of employers that you find are large industrial spaces, be it warehousing, whether it's assembly, light industrial, manufacturing, those types of uses. They generally set up and are large employers, and they contribute in that respect to the local economy. But what they also usually bring is big trucks. They bring a lot of traffic and a lot of heavy traffic. So a very popular strategy for them is to bring them to your community, but keep them next to the off-ramp. Don't have them driving through your local streets. You've already got trash trucks and school buses, and in Kyle's case, construction traffic that is on our local streets day in and day out. There's no reason to bring your tractor trailers that are associated with employment too far into the community, just because of their scale, and just keep them close to the major corridor so they can get in and out of town and get their business done, but not be disruptive. So to Paul's point, do we want to allow those larger businesses to locate in our regional node, which I think originally was envisioned as being a halcyon location for point of service sales? I don't think the brick and mortar sales have been as robust as folks had thought it would have been back in 2010. Haven't seen a lot of stuff coming out of the ground on the I-35 frontage. We've had some zonings that were done, probably speculative, so that they could list them for sale or to lease to different clients. But we haven't seen a lot of construction within eyeshot of either north or southbound. We have had some interest very recently, within the last 6-8 months, for some larger parcel land that is right along I-35. And currently it would probably be possible, but not as easy as it should be, that some of those could land in Kyle. But more than likely, the place for them to locate would either be the larger lots in Plum Creek, which are still being marketed towards employment, or some of the naturally occurring industrial complex that we've got east of the hospital. I will call it west of or northwest of the high school, basically between the hospital and the high school, in that sort of area. With the introduction of wastewater in the southwest part of the city, there's some large parcels that are down there too. Much of that is already being consumed by residential. Paramount, the 50 acres that are to the west of Paramount, and there's been some other interest on some stuff back in towards town. But some of that stuff down there, if and when it ever comes into the city, would probably be attractive as industrial land. So my professional feeling on locating warehouse, industrial, and whatnot in the regional node is that it's fine. It can absolutely operate in harmony with the other uses. I'm more concerned that it is attractive from a corporate standpoint, that you have large areas that are covered in turf, not necessarily just a bunch of cedars or whatever type of native vegetation that happens to grow here as it does. Attractive landscaping, attractive cladding on the side of the buildings, maybe trying to conceal more of the garage doors and some of the surface parking. It can work, and we have so much frontage, we have so many acres, that it would be against Kyle's own best judgment to take that opportunity away. But it's really a policy decision on the part of not just the P&Z, but the council as well, as whether or not we site those buildings within 1,500 feet of the interstate.
We also have that area though by 35 across from Home Depot, where the Hayes Commerce Center is. We've got Alsco right there, that uniform place. I think there's actually some construction of other warehouse space being developed there. Paul, is that kind of like what your vision is in your head? It's kind of like what's going on with the Hayes Commerce Center right there, right across from Home Depot.
That's one possibility. I'm more interested in making sure we attract industrial and manufacturing, and not necessarily logistics, which most of that appears to be logistics based. The industrial clients are going to be there for a long time. The stuff like ENF, which is over in Plum Creek, but to me, that kind of stuff, it's needed for the community. But in my mind, the most attractive place for that is not necessarily right next to high residential concentrations but close to the highway, like Howard's talking about. I think what we've got going on in the Plum Creek area and over there with Endeavor it's good, but I don't think it's enough. There's a lot of demand, and we have a huge opportunity because there's a lot of people fleeing California. There's probably going to be folks fleeing Austin. I mean, folks, I'm talking about businesses, manufacturing. Kyle is an attractive place to put that kind of thing, but right now I don't think our zoning makes it attractive to it's providing a hindrance to some. I mean, if somebody has the will, they're probably going to have the ability to get something done, but I don't think we should preclude or prevent or discourage any of that. I think we should be open and have the possibility so they could easily come in certain areas where it makes sense, like that southeast portion, and also where 21 and 150 meet, to encourage that kind of development to occur. And so that's why
Paul, how would businesses take to, because I don't know anything about this, if a warehouse or industrial business comes in and wants to put something in on that southeast section of 35 when you're coming into the city, and we have it as a conditional use in the regional node, how would a business take to the other requirements of meeting all of the landscape and the facades and how everything has to look to get on that highway access? Would a business be open to that?
For a large industrial manufacturing facility, or I don't think they'd bat an eye at that, because they're going to want to have an attractive campus to begin with. Okay. They're already going to they'll probably be spending more money on their own internal design standards and what we would ask them to put on the frontage side to kind of dress it up on there. I don't think that would be an issue.
Then I would think, my humble opinion, I would think making it conditional is no biggie. It would then have to come before us, right? Any commission, any planning and zoning commission, it would have to come before the commission and then city council for approval. So something can't go there willy-nilly. It's not just, approved. We would have to make a decision on it.
And I appreciate that. And I also understand, I think where Tim's coming from, and I think you're coming from, is there's some regional nodes that we have on there where I don't think it's appropriate to do that, though.
Right, but if you put it as conditional, then you nix it when it comes in. You say it's not appropriate. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying.
Howard, I've got a question for you, sir. Do you know if in the new TERS and TERS 2 there off 1626, is there any type of zoning in there for what Paul's looking for? Construction warehouse?
Well, I'm sure not.
I don't know the answer to that.
Would be a good location for development of that kind of infrastructure that Paul's talking about. That area off 1626 right there would probably be ideal.
I suspect there's, without looking at the zoning map, I think there's some east of the railroad tracks and south of Kohlers. There's a lot of stuff in there that Plum Creek is zoned for light industrial type uses. When I'm talking about conditional, just so everybody's comfortable with it, do we want to get more specific geographically rather than just saying regional node, though? Because there's, like even Paul's alluded to, there's a lot of regional nodes. Do we want to say the portion of the regional node south of yada yada and east of this intersection can be considered conditionally for warehouse and construction manufacturing uses? Do we want to get that specific? Is that something?
Why?
No? Okay.
No.
Why do we want to do
Not in
that?
the comprehensive plan, you don't.
No,
Okay.
you don't want to do that.
You don't want it to be policy, and you don't want it to be specific.
Okay.
You can
And that's
talk
fine.
about situations where it would be appropriate, like adjacent to a 6-lane road, because that's situational. That's not necessarily spatial. But I don't want the comprehensive plan to ever be a document that is ERSAT zoning or development standard.
Okay. Okay. No, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
the
I just wanted to make
conditional,
sure that,
conditional gives it the leeway, I think. You know, it has to come, it definitely has to come before you. And if it's not the right thing in the right spot, you say no.
okay.
Anybody else?
I just want to say though that you know, as always, Paul, your interest is always in the best for the city. So your ideas are always great ideas.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking along the lines of we kind of need to highlight these areas to kick the pants of the people who are working on transportation master plans, utility master plans, which is why I go back to we really need to rewrite the entire comprehensive plan so that we have a focus on these as some very core key areas of the city and work around them and integrate them, not kind of like shove them in there. I'm not thrilled about the idea of just tacking this on. I think that's a Band-Aid. I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it's a plan B kind of arrangement. I really think, the best case scenario is for us to redo the comprehensive plan and have a focus on manufacturing and industrial site locations being called out or focused on there so that we can start tailoring, like I said, the utility plans and the transportation plans around them. But hey, this is an opinion of one guy, and I'm heavily biased towards manufacturing and that because that's kind of the background I come from. So I also want what's in the best interest of the city, and I hear what you guys are talking about too. So consider me a voice of some percentage of the thought processes that might occur within the city or the people within it, but not the only voice. So.
Okay, anybody else? So do you have direction on that, Will? Is that good
Yes,
for you?
I think it's as simple as including
Okay.
warehouse and CM and the regional node
Okay.
conditionally.
Okay, item D, discussion only regarding Planning and Zoning Commission request for future agenda items. Okay, don't all jump in together. This is always the best part here. Don't be laughing there, Tim. I see you. Nothing, we have nothing. Alex has a little grin on his face too, but.
I can't see Alex. Do we know where Hayes CISD is going to be building future schools? And should we start thinking about that in some of this?
I guess we could find out from them. They must have an idea of where they're going in.
So I know there's a fourth high school that's desperately going to be needed probably as soon as we get done building the current set of housing we've shown. And anyway, that's more of like a brainstorming thought.
We could wander around their website. Their website may have projections on where they think they're going to go.
Yeah, they're going to be building one in Six Creeks, of course, elementary, and then probably another high school for sure in the future on the Buda side of the east side. That's what I know so far.
We could find out. It's easy enough to find out.
But I know for sure Six Creeks, there's a layout already for the elementary in there.
Yeah, they certainly have a school site in Six Creeks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks for updating us on that, Priscilla. Thank you.
Sure.
So there's nothing else except when are we going to get somebody to help us do this comprehensive plan? That's it, right? That's the only thing? That's the only thing we're looking for. Do I have a consensus on that from my fellow commissioners?
I agree.
All right, good. Okay, we're just laying it out there. We're just laying it out. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, how did we need to discuss the November 24th meeting at all, or?
Right now, it's still my plan to have one.
Okay.
Because I'd like to be able to put the draft of the text changes to the comp plan in front of you. I don't think it'll be an all-night meeting. It would be reasonably short. It'll be virtual anyway, so wherever you are is where you can participate. Today's the 10th, so it'll be the night of Tuesday the 24th at 6:30. Everything goes my way, I'll have you that draft by Friday the 20th.
All right, so now we'll move on to item number 9, which is a staff report from Howard J. Coons, Director of Planning and Community Development. Mr. Coons.
That was pretty much it. We're gonna have a
That
meeting.
was it?
Yeah, I think that's all I have. I can't recall, unless anybody has any questions for me, I can't recall prepping anything for this meeting tonight.
Okay, you got a question for him? No? Good. All right, number 10 is adjournment. Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair, a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I have a motion on the floor. Can I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
attending this meeting.
Everybody.
Bye.
See ya.